Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with knowledge partners NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, the CEO of Boardroom Resources and the editor-at-large at Corporate Board Member Magazine. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. And we are going to be talking, this is our annual New Year's show. And on the New Year's show, we take a look and project what we think are going to be the top issues in 2018. So, joining me as an expert to talk about that is a familiar face on the show, Paula Loop, who's the leader of PwC's Governance Insights Center. Welcome back, Paula.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so this is like the fun part of things. We get a chance to sort of
think about what's coming next.
Yeah, look into our crystal balls, and as long as people don't pull the show up a year later and specifically look at what we said. But actually, we've been pretty good. When we talked previous year about board composition, it truly was a year of board composition. So we aren't doing that bad, okay, in some of our projections. But specifically, we want to look at what are the top strategy or governance challenges that boards will face in 2018. So the fact that you're my guest, I'm going to let you go first on what's your first topic that is the challenge for 2018.
Thank you. Well, and I'm trying not to be too boring, but I am going to go with the same one from last year. I think board composition is going to continue to get a whole bunch of attention this year, but probably in a broader, more holistic way. So last year we just generally said, look, you got to pay attention to who's on the board and you got to really focus on it. But I think now it's taking on a much more of a life of its own. So let's start with the basics, right? You want to make sure you have the board members that are going to really be able to help the company deliver the strategy in the future and out looking, to today and out to the future. So making sure you align your board member skill sets with the strategy so they can really add a lot of value there. But I think you got to think even further than that when you think about it. There's a real trend right now thinking about having subject matter experts on your board, so maybe somebody that's focused on cyber or something like that. But you have to make sure that you don't just have a board of these experts, but that they can all really work together and deliver all the things that the board needs to deliver. So I think we got to pay attention to that. Obviously, there's diversity things to pay attention to. You really need to think about refreshment along with this process as you lay out your succession plan for your board. And I think two other areas that people aren't focused a lot about is onboarding of new directors. Once you identify these new directors that are going to join, making sure that onboarding is really right and really helpful for them so they can get up to speed as quickly as possible. And last but not least, I'm really a proponent of having some kind of a feedback process for board members. So they hear on a fairly regular basis what are the things they're doing really well, that really add value to the board, that the other board members really appreciate, and then what are the few areas that maybe board members would like to see them do more, or even management would like to get more from the board. So making sure that feedback process is put into place from the very beginning. So still a lot to think about.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here a year from now and board composition is still an issue, because in the end, you have to have the resources and the talent in the room to be effective. And I think investors recognize that. So I think it may be boring into the future, but it's very important. So my issue that I wanted to bring up was sort of the 2018 will be the sort of a year of shareholder empowerment, okay? We've sort of seen some of it, but here's the thing that we really saw this year, and that was the sort of the controller, NYC, New York City Controller's Office, Scott Stringer, and the New York City pension funds have developed a formula for influencing boards to see things their way, okay?
And it seems to be working.
It seems to be working very well. The board access in their board accountability project look at what's happening. They're going down 75 a year, and either those companies are settling or they're going ahead and instituting proxy access into their charter. And that's just the beginning. Now they've launched Board Accountability 2.0. It's going to be looking at diversity. It's going to be looking at climate control. And so when you take that movement and their ability to withhold votes and influence the decisions in the boardroom and add State Street's comments on that they're going to withhold on companies that aren't diverse, and you look at BlackRock's comments and what they're doing, CalSTRS has become more aggressive in its position. All that is swinging the pendulum, okay, and changing the thought process in the boardroom. Now, maybe in 2018, this pendulum swings so far that it starts to hurt things a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens. But that, to me, companies in 2018 better be prepared for this growth in shareholder empowerment and the pressure that they're going to be putting on boards to sort of think their way.
Yeah. And I think the boards have to be open-minded and good listeners. They don't necessarily have to do, take on every suggestion that's put forward, but I do think they have to be good listeners, and I think they have to understand the context. So, but that will be a point to continue to watch. We may be talking about that one again next year too.
Yeah, and I hope it's in a constructive way. I hope it's in a way that shareholder engagement has grown, there's an appreciation better on both sides, and that we hit a fine line where we understand investors' rights, we understand board and company rights.
Right, no, exactly.
So you're next.
All right.
We have time for one more.
One more. So I think the area probably that I think will take off even more this next year is around strategy, and when you're thinking about technology and the change that that's going to drive for all businesses, right? It's that element of disruption that's going to be out there no matter what. I think it's a couple of different aspects, right? It's thinking about emerging technology. So what are you doing for that related to your business? How is the company thinking about it? How are they dealing with it? Are they acquiring companies that have new technologies? Are they kind of incubating them in-house? What's happening with emerging technologies? Then thinking about digital transformation. So not only digital transformation on how you deal with your customers or your external facing digital transformation, but also internally, your own people. How are you keeping those people up to date on these new changes and making sure they're staying along for the ride? And then last but not least, the cyber impact of all of that, right? I mean, cyber's not over. Right. So that's still going to be in the mix for everything. And every emerging technology, every element of digital transformation, you got to think about cyber. So I think that's going to be challenging for companies and challenging for boards to oversee.
Well, you know as well as I do, with the same regularity that we could talk about board composition, we could talk about cyber, because the risk of cyber, look at what happened just this year. I mean, it's too hard to get your arms around. But really, your point isn't so much the cyber, it's things like artificial intelligence. I mean,
but then the cyber impact of that as well. So,
but think of how artificial intelligence has the potential to change companies going forward.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable. And if you, as a board, aren't giving thought to these disruptions, there's a reason why the top 20 companies are so different, 20 years later than they were 20 years ago, is that people have not sort of handled these disruptions very well, and new leading companies emerge, okay, and others fall back or get acquired or whatever. So it's huge. I know PwC did a Essential 8 Technologies or something that's on your series. I know it's available on your website. Great. It's a great look for directors to see, what points. Well,
so some quick data points to help them get up to speed, because even if the company is getting there, the board has to oversee it. So the board has to understand all of that, and it changes so fast. I mean, you really have to stay on top of it, have a broad understanding, and then stay on top of what the changes are to make sure you're thinking about it the right way.
Well, I look forward to us having the chance to follow this path in 2018. And for PwC and for all my other partners in the show, I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and a prosperous new year. We've enjoyed that. We're looking forward to 2018. And enjoy the holidays, and we'll be back again here next year when you have a chance to tune in to make sure that we're hitting on those special topics that'll help you be a better board member or a better committee member. So we'll see you next year.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, Donnelly Financial Solutions, and the Society for Corporate Governance.